Okay, so we're talking. This is Jolene. Say your name, Dad.
I'm Arvin Vos.
Yep. All right, so we're sitting here in the Bunker Nature Preserve Center with a thunderstorm coming.
And it's raining already.
Yep. But we've got shelter. All right, so you were we were just talking about your book, and you were just telling about your trip to Colorado with Mom, and you met Daniel and Chantal there with their kids. So, and then you went to the valley.
Mm-hmm.
You want to pick up there?
Yeah, and we entered the valley from the far north end. The the valley was is shaped a little bit like an hourglass, and it's narrow toward the north end, and we entered from the north into the valley.
Yeah, and so you were just telling me that it was so flat. Was that surprising?
Yeah. I thought there would be some variation, but as far as you could see, it was all flat. Yeah.
All right, so I have some questions. We'll come back to the valley, but I've got some questions ready for you. So,
Okay.
So you wrote this book, False Promises is the title. So when did you start on this project?
Oh, with COVID, basically.
Yeah. At what point in COVID?
Remember, well, at the beginning, but it took me 3 or 4 years to do it, because I would work on it for a time and then take a break.
Mm-hmm.
and there's all other activities that inevitably intervene.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So what inspired you to write on this story?
well, I had given a presentation to my cousins, and that intrigued me, and I just scraped the surface and in that presentation, and so I gradually was more and more fascinated by it, and so ended up writing a book.
When did you give that presentation to your cousins? Do you remember?
No, it's before COVID, probably 2019. Yeah, but by the end of 2020, I think I was working on it. Yeah.
So why this story? Like, what drew you in?
Well, there's a lot of material available with the Vosses, and they didn't come as a single family, but they came with 220 others, and so there are Colorado papers, English papers, talk about their coming, and comment on what a hard time they were having, and so forth. And the Wachter also had, I found 25 articles in the Wachter.
Where is the Wachter based?
In Grand Rapids. It was a denominational paper in the 1800s.
Right. Dutch
They-
language paper.
Yeah, it was Dutch language, so I had to translate everything.
How was
It
that? How was the translating?
No, I used Google, and
And then fixed it up.
yeah, but partially I knew enough that I wouldn't have to, but some phrases, really eluded me. So for just to check myself, I would resort to Google Translate. Mhm.
So were you just like, why Peter and Annika? Just because they're the ones who immigrated?
Yeah. Peter and Annika immigrated, and they were, I guess, fascinated with the opportunity that the stock phrase that they used was, the San Luis Valley was the Italy of North America. It's completely false. There was temperature, climate-wise, and land-wise. It was completely different, and it was a bald-faced lie.
What, so what is your gut reaction when you say, like you see this situation that your great-grandparents were in with a bald-faced lie that brought them across
Well,
the ocean?
Yeah, very often the immigrants were taken for as suckers, and that's true for the Dutch and for any other group that immigrates. They're told stories that are amazing and so forth, but they end up, the reality is very different.
What struck me is that it's their countrymen who are exploiting them
Yes, exactly.
back in the Netherlands.
Yes, and a tidbit that the Zoutman, he dies a year later from.
Remind me who Zoutman was again?
Zoutman, I can't think of his first name off, but he was the main person behind the company, and he had all the shares, and the company, as a result, didn't have any financial backing. So, yeah, he dies from TB, and he has an affair with the other person, the wife of the other person, who heads up the company, Vander. Let's see, Vander something. They're all Vanders.
Right.
From the, in Dutch it means from the whatever.
Right. So we have a low opinion of these people running the company.
Yeah, but partly it was their inexperience. that
The immigrants or the company?
the company and the leadership, and they were not experienced at all in handling a large group, and as a result, they didn't plan adequately, and so forth, and they were just irresponsible, to sum it up.
Mm-hmm. And yet, that's how your family arrived in the U.S.
That's right. And they stayed in Colorado for one year. Well, 10 months, 11 months. They arrived at the end of November, and by mid-November the following year, they had left already. And they went to Kansas, Luctor, Kansas, and stayed there for 2 years, and then finally, after 2 more years, they went to Pala area. Puri.
More specifically.
Yes, yes. Though they were on the south side of the river, the South Skunk River, so they were 2 miles from Puri, but probably another 6 or 7 miles to Pala. So they were sort of, but I think the Puri congregation of the Christian Reformed Church had just been formed 2 or 3 years before they arrived. So I think they naturally gravitated to that, and there was a good bridge
Over the river.
Across the river. That bridge had been built 20 or 30 years before, and the road actually would flood, but the bridge was high enough. so for short periods, they would be cut off. They would be cut off from Puri, but in normal season, the river would be in its banks, and they would not have any problem.
They were, in your book, what struck me too is you don't have much from them personally.
No.
You have very little. But you do surmise some things because they were quick to leave. Right? Each
Yes,
time.
yes.
Like they seem to just make up their mind, they're gone.
Yes, exactly. I think Peter must have been quite daring, but when it didn't work out, then they left. Mm-hmm. And the indication that I have is when the harvest did not work out, then they left by several weeks before the final meeting of the consistory of that Rillen consistory.
Right, in the San Luis Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. By the way, we saw the new church.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the old meeting house where they were talking about I mentioned in the book, that's right across the road from it. and it's in very bad shape.
The old
And,
church?
Yeah, the old schoolhouse,
Oh, yeah.
because they had services in what they called the schoolhouse. Yeah, so
But it's not being maintained today.
no, it's it is partially burned and so forth, and so but it's interesting. One family of the 27 or so families that stayed, Heersink, and the Heersink family, Adolf Heersink, and his great grandson has written a book on two colonies or something like that.
Did you read it?
Yeah, I've read it. Yeah. It's a very different book. He gravitates toward the interesting stories and about what he's collected, and but I focus on only one family, and everything else is background.
Mm-hmm.
So
What was your goal in writing the book?
just to inform the family, the children and the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren, that they'll have a record of how the Vosses came to America or the U.S.
Yeah. Okay, what was most challenging in writing the book? Like the writing of it, the research of it, the organizing of it.
Well, I followed the timeline kind of, and so I don't think the organizing
Got thunder.
it was a problem, but I would say the fact that some of my sources were in Dutch was a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and finding information seemed like it could be challenging at times. Just because, I mean, you were looking for some letters from the family, right? And there were very few.
Yeah. There were letters that were mail sent to them, but basically one letter that my grandpa wrote, and other than that, there's no personal correspondence. So I had to go on the general condition of the family of the colony.
So there was no personal correspondence that you found, but I think there was personal correspondence that existed, right? It's just been lost?
Yeah,
Although,
it's not been saved. Annika wrote the one letter that was published in the Nord-Brabanter paper, and other than that, I wasn't able to find any.
Because I think you wonder if Peter is illiterate, right? Because he
Yeah,
signs his name
yeah.
as with an X at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah, exactly.
So you're guessing that he wouldn't have been writing,
No,
but Annika did.
I think Annika wrote. That's my surmise,
Mhm.
but I don't know for sure. But anyway, yeah, that's part of what's lost.
Right. What was fun about writing the book?
Well, discovering that the exact history as I could make it out, and and yeah, what they all went through, and especially in Colorado, and the Kansas years are really quite a blank, because there was nothing that I came across personal or in about the community.
The local newspapers were not writing.
No.
That was not the
No.
news interest.
Yeah, and that was a smaller colony, and so Prairie View had a paper, but what is intrigued me was the county peaked in terms of population about that time, and so it has about a third of the population, or less than a third
Today.
today. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was struck by that too. And then you gave some reasons. You thought because agriculture has been industrialized, farms are bigger, so there's just population density went way down.
And Mahaska County, where Don lives, it has 10,000 drop in population.
From which time period to which time period?
From 1900 to 2020. So it has dropped considerably, and Marion County has held its own, but
That's where Pella is.
Yeah, Pella and Knoxville.
But Oskaloosa
has maintained about it has about 10,000 people in 1900, and it has about 12,000 in 2020. Yeah, so it has not grown. And my brother John says if there was a bad decision to be made, they made it.
In Oskaloosa.
Yes. Yeah. In terms of attracting industry and so forth. So they did not succeed. There's Iowa Valve and nothing like Vermeer's.
And Vermeer and Pella.
Yeah. Or the roll screen. Pella Corporation, as it's known today.
Sorry?
Pella Corporation,
Mm-hmm.
Pella Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Pella has two rather large industries for a small town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
coming back to the book, in the writing of it, did you, like, which characters did you feel most sympathy for?
Well, the Vosses naturally, and
Peter and Annika?
yeah,
and-
Peter and Annika. You know, they were immigrating at a time of life that they were about 20 years older than the usual immigrant, and so they were relatively old, and Annika was 2 years older than Peter, and their boys, Klein was 20, and Adrian was 16 when they started out.
And Mary?
And Mary was 18. So, yeah.
You said in the book, early on, you said something about Mary was somewhat of a burden, that, that she was never able to live independently. And you never really come back to her, except at the end you have an appendix on her. But
Mm-hmm.
what was there other information that about that?
No, I haven't
Or is-
been able to find any.
Or is that just
I
family
think-
memories?
I think
hearing
she
your
was subject to seizures, is my guess, that a form of epilepsy, and that was really looked down on at the time, and you didn't have the drugs then that they control seizures at the time, and there were even laws that you could not marry if you were epileptic. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you tried to get the records from Pine Rest. You wrote that, but
Yeah,
a dead end
that
there.
was a dead end. Yeah. I'm sorry that they didn't keep those records.
That's puzzling that they.
Yeah.
Um,
Why they could destroy those is very puzzling,
mhm.
because there would be people there now that might have need of them.
Right.
So, yeah. But, Pine Rest has changed too. It is now a short-term service, and there's very little long-term. Yeah. But, and I think it's clear to me that once Mary was committed to Pine Rest, that she lived out her life there. The last, what do I say?
Yeah, 17 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And then your grandfather, you just mentioned at the end that he, of course, killed himself.
Yeah.
You don't really talk much about him,
No.
but
Yeah. I wondered if that was because he was obviously depressed, and Uncle Martin was wounded at about the same time.
Remind me how Uncle Martin fits in.
It's
He's a son
my
of...
dad's brother.
So a son of Adrian and Mary.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and had been drafted, and he was shot through the shoulder, so it was close to fatal, but it wasn't. And then he died later from an accident. And I think Uncle Martin had PTSD. And the only hint that I have is that he was not allowed to run the corn picker.
He was not allowed to run the corn picker because...
Because he was subject to being too rough with machinery, and basically later on, when my parents moved, then he threw a hammer at Uncle Pete or Uncle Ben or so forth, and he was subject to being reckless.
Reckless and violent, it sounds
violent.
like.
And I've wondered if he had an accident where he was killed in his late 50s, and I wonder if that was a contributing factor, his PTSD. I don't know.
You mean if the PTSD might have caused the accident?
No, well, his acts. He had an accident. A tractor turned over on him, and he was killed. And I wonder if his way of handling machinery was reckless.
Right.
So, but that's, it may have been simply a fluke that he went off the edge and the tractor rolled.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You've heard my speculation.
Right. Well, and then how much did you know your grandfather, Adrian?
I didn't.
Well, because I don't remember the dates.
I was born in 42, and he died in 44.
Okay, so you were 3 years old.
When I was less than 2 years old.
Oh, okay.
It was earlier in the year. So I never knew him. I didn't know either of my grandfathers. I knew my grandmothers.
Yeah. So what do you remember of your grandmothers?
Well, when I was in high school, I would go there for lunch occasionally. They would invite me. And
separately or together?
Well, Aunt Margaret lived with Grandma and my grandma, and so they would invite me over for a lunch, and I don't know exactly what you mean.
Okay. Well, you said your grandmothers you would stop by for lunch, but that was with your Aunt Margaret and your grandmother Sarah.
And Grandma Sarah.
Vos.
Yeah. And but Grandma Vinci was living on the Crookham. I remember that, and that had a huge expanse of bottomland, and so yeah. And then later she moved into town, and Uncle Marion started to work at the Dollar Corporation, and so anyway, and she died one morning, collapsed, and Uncle Fred was in the house, and he went over to Uncle Marion's house and called for help. And Uncle Fred was limited. I don't think he ever learned to read. So I can remember looking at pictures with him, but he didn't talk about the content really. So anyway.
Well, okay, so you did not know your grandfathers. What did you hear about them? What do you know about them?
I don't know. I think my grandfather on my mom's side had diabetes, but other than that, and there's some difference of opinion among my cousins. And my oldest cousin on the Van Zee side, Marvin Van Donsler, he doesn't agree with me.
About the diabetes?
Yeah.
Oh.
He says that he had consumption or dropsy, which I don't know what it is.
Oh, those are old terms.
Yeah.
Wasn't your grandfather blind? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, yes. Later in life he was blind. Yeah.
Because I remember your mother, my grandmother, talking about her father being blind, and they had some blind horses.
Yeah.
There was a lot of blindness around.
Yeah. I guess, Aunt Mary Lois is nearly blind. Or she can only make out just shadows and so forth. But she's 93. But my mom, your grandma, didn't suffer from any vision problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can be thankful we're living in the age where we're living in, and we have access to good health care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, saved your life a few times.
Yes. I wouldn't have reached 30 except through surgery.
What did you most enjoy about your trip to Colorado related to the book?
Well, seeing the valley and seeing the farm that the Vosses bought and so forth, and that was intrigued me. And yeah. So my brother John, your uncle, is saying that we should, or he should sometimes go out to Luctor and to see that place. And it's, yeah, I agree with it.
Well, he's not too far away, right? Relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking, but I wonder if it's 200 miles, I think, for him yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he hasn't made it yet to Luxor.
And you haven't either.
No. Daniel was very nice, and he invited us to spend the weekend, and so we rode the narrow gauge railroad, and then we also went to Great Sand Dunes National Park. So we had a packed time, and he had found a luxurious house for us to stay in, and it was obviously built by someone who had a lot of money, and so it could hold the six of us comfortably, and so yeah, we had a good time.
Nice. And that was to drop Antoine off for college?
Yeah, we dropped Antoine off for the Air Force Academy, and we arrived there, and at the academy, and we saw Garden of the Gods we went around that park area, and then we went to the luncheon that they had for new cadets. Well, appointees, I'll use the official name, appointees, but that was interrupted by a thunderstorm.
Were you
And
outdoors?
Yeah. There are 1,100 in each class, and of course family comes with it. In the case of Antoine, 5 others, so there was a big crowd, but they canceled all activities after it was threatening. So anyway, and then Antoine had to be dropped off the next on Wednesday. We moved to the Denver area, or Colorado Springs, on Monday. No. On Monday on Tuesday we went to Colorado Springs and stayed in a less luxurious place, and then we went to the luncheon, and all activities were canceled after that. And then on Wednesday morning, there was a line of cars that were each person was appointee was were dropped off, and you had to go, and you didn't get to say goodbye or anything. That was deliberate because they found that didn't work according to Daniel, and anyway, everyone just dropped a cadet or appointee off, and there was probably 50 cars in line, and they had them staggered. So some of them needed to show up at 11, and some at 9, and so forth, and so forth. So anyway, we dropped them off, and then went on to the Denver airport, and Mom and I flew home, and Daniel and Chantal stayed there 2 more days working.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to take vacation.
I'm gonna stop this.